What if Lucifer was never the enemy, but the architect of a new beginning? No one rules the abyss alone. There's something the sacred books don't tell us, a secret buried deep in the catacombs of faith, where unauthorized versions of history burn in silence. They say Lucifer fell because of pride, that he rebelled against the light. But what if his fall was part of a greater design, a dark agreement between heaven and the abyss? According to Gnostic traditions and occult writings erased by orthodoxy, Lucifer wasn't alone. At the moment of the Great Divide, entities were cast out with him, some by choice, others by force. A circle was formed beyond the reach of creation. The Council of Shadows, not a hell of chaos, but a seat of power where sit renegade angels, forgotten gods, forbidden intelligences, voices that knew the plan, but refused its end. What if the true rebellion wasn't against God, but against the imposed version of creation? The Nag Hammadi manuscripts speak of archons. The Book of Enoch reveals angels who descended with Lucifer, not to destroy, but to teach. Some called them demons, others liberators. In the beginning, there wasn't just light and darkness. There was divergence, dissent, a war of visions over what the universe was meant to become. Maybe Lucifer didn't create an empire of evil, but a gathering of those who dared to remember. What do you think about this? Let us know in the comments. Light organizers. Shadow remembers. When Lucifer was cast out of the higher plane, he didn't fall alone. With him went the first to question, are those who looked upon creation and saw its flaws. They were called traitors, but they were seekers of truth. The Council of Shadows was formed by these first names erased from the heavens. Azazel, the bearer of war's secrets. Samael, the poison of God, once a divine enforcer, now walking the edges. Belial, the masterless spirit, symbol of freedom without a throne. And then there were those without names, entities whose identities were stripped from celestial records. The Book of Enoch speaks of 200 watcher angels who descended to earth. But what they don't teach is this: they didn't fall, they took a stand. What if the true fall belonged to those who stayed obedient? The Council of Shadows didn't begin as a rebellion. It was a refuge, a space for dissent, where forbidden voices spoke freely about justice, destiny, and the flaws of a creation pretending to be perfect. Why were the angels who taught humanity labeled as cursed? What was so dangerous about sharing knowledge? Their presence still echoes, not in churches, but in hidden symbols, in the margins of sacred texts, in myths that outlive time and censorship. Maybe divine punishment was never about the mistake, but about daring to teach without permission. If this message resonated with you, like this video and help spread the word. Before light, there was awareness. Before angels, there were formless voices. Most religious traditions begin with an act of creation, but the banned texts, the Sibylline fragments, Sumerian hymns, Hermetic grimoires, speak of something older, entities that were never created. They simply were. Tiamat, the primordial goddess, torn apart so the universe could take shape. Ibzu, the abyss of silence, dissolved so order could breathe. Lilith, the first woman, denied for refusing to bow, demonized for rejecting submission. What do all these erased names have in common? Why did history turn them into monsters, serpents, and demons? According to some esoteric traditions, when Lucifer fell, he wasn't seeking hell. He was seeking oblivion. And there, he found these exiled consciousnesses, forgotten by time, erased by dominant religions. The Council of Shadows grew, no longer made up only of fallen angels, but of ancient gods dethroned by a rising celestial hierarchy. What if the fall was actually a rescue mission? In Gnostic teachings, the creator of the visible world, the demiurge, is flawed, a usurper of the true source. Creation then becomes a prison, and the fallen, misunderstood liberators. What if we were taught to worship the jailer and fear the ones who tried to open the gates? The council now echoes across lost eras, fragments of a time when evil was not a concept, but a natural force. And darkness was not punishment but origin. Maybe hell is not a place, but the living memory of everything forcefully stripped from the light. Subscribe. What comes next is even darker. The council doesn't watch, it shapes. Since the first walled cities, something has whispered behind human decisions. History isn't written by the victors, but by unseen hands. In Sumer, priests received night visions of winged entities. In Babylon, the founding of ziggurats was marked by rituals where the names of ancient gods were whispered with fear. The Ugaritic manuscripts speak of rogue deities who shaped mankind's fate not through war, but through symbols. And Rome became an empire after dreaming of a fallen star. Some occult scholars believe Lucifer whispered to Caesar not to destroy the world, but to unite it under an illusion. What's more powerful than evil? The belief that you're doing good. Across the centuries, the Council of Shadows infiltrated human systems, not as chaos, but as alternative control. In medieval courts, alchemists guided by ancestral voices. During the Inquisition, heretics burned for speaking forbidden names that may have never truly died. In revolutions, occult symbols hidden in flags, ancient codes disguised as ideals. What if wars were never just between nations, but between celestial narratives? Some esoteric orders still try to piece together fragments of the council's gatherings. Circular diagrams, thrones marked by forbidden runes, seats reserved for entities that speak through dreams and madness. Maybe the world was never ruled by kings, but by masked echoes of a power that chose exile over obedience. Share this with someone who needs to see what was hidden. The clay was shaped, but who whispered the spark? The creation of humanity is one of faith's greatest dogmas. But in hidden texts and forgotten versions, the origin of the soul is questioned. According to the Book of Enoch, the Watchers taught humans not only agriculture and astrology, but also how to invoke, resist, and manipulate invisible forces. Why would angels be punished for teaching, if knowledge is a gift? In some Gnostic traditions, humans were not created to be free. They were formed as functional vessels, obedient containers. The soul, they say, was forced inside, then sealed beneath veils of forgetfulness. But Lucifer saw something, and the council acted. Luciferian tradition claims the awakening of human consciousness was an act of divine rebellion. Not sin, but escape. What if the forbidden fruit wasn't a mistake, but the beginning of liberation? Lilith refused the role of submissive companion and vanished from Scripture. But in certain esoteric circles, she is known as the first to steal the secret of the spark. The presence of the council can be felt in that primal act, teaching mankind to remember who they are, not as creatures, but as something that predates even the heavens. Why do so many prophets go mad when they hear God? What if it wasn't God, but something else? Canonized religions rewrote the story. Obedience is virtue, questioning is the fall. But beneath the words there are symbols. Beneath the symbols, echoes. Perhaps man's fall was not the end of innocence, but the first step toward the lost memory of what he truly is. Have you ever wondered about this? Share your thoughts in the comments. Not all forgetting is natural. Some memories were erased to prevent the world from burning. Among the oldest occult traditions, there is a principle that challenges all linear religions. The soul is not born, it returns. But the return is blind. Most reincarnate without remembering, without knowing, without suspecting. Why? According to Gnostic records and silenced Kabbalistic streams, the veil of reincarnation was distorted. Originally, reincarnation was evolution. Now it's repetition. What if the soul's forgetting is a containment mechanism? They say the Council of Darkness never abandoned mankind. It simply stopped acting on the surface. Through disturbed dreams, slips of déjà vu, chance encounters, the echoes of the Council try to awaken fragments of soul in certain people at certain times. These souls are called bearers, men and women who carry remnants of what they saw in other lives and return to fulfill missions they never fully remember. Why do some children have memories they never lived? Why do certain symbols trigger inexplicable sensations? The Council seems to fight not only against divine forgetting, but against something greater, the manipulation of time. There are accounts in forbidden manuscripts of rituals capable of altering the course of reincarnations, suicidal monks who returned with memories intact, oracles hunted not for predicting the future, but the forgotten past. The Council believes to recover memory is to reclaim free will, and what the heavens fear most is mankind remembering what he once was. Maybe we're not afraid of death, but of waking up in the middle of life and realizing we've been here before and failed. Like if any part of this made you uncomfortable. Not all light is pure. Not every dogma was born sacred. The Council of Darkness didn't just hide in the shadows. It infiltrated temples, liturgies, sacred texts, reforming, subverting, erasing. Ancient scribes spoke of lost writings, earlier versions of scripture, where good and evil blurred. Lucifer was not just the adversary. He was also the bearer of forbidden light, the bearer of hidden truth. In the vaults of the Vatican, they say there are manuscripts mentioning beings called the angels of disobedience, entities who brought humanity the gift of doubt and were silenced by religious authority. Why did the church suppress so many books and prophets? What was hidden behind the seal of silence? The Crusades were not just territorial wars. They were battles to maintain a single version of history, a history where the Council of Darkness is the ultimate villain, and its voices erased. But amid the ashes, some secret orders guard fragments of the true knowledge. They know that evil and good are two sides of the same coin, and that the Council can be both prison and key. Maybe the real heresy is questioning who truly holds the light, and whom the darkness we fear really serves. Subscribe. The truth doesn't stop here. The shadows walk disguised as symbols, not just in the occult, but in everyday life, in culture, in art. The Council of Darkness doesn't need temples to exist. Its marks are found in what people see, touch, and celebrate, in logos, monuments, films, and music. The inverted pentagram, the coiled serpent, the all-seeing eye, they aren't just symbols of fear, but signs of an ancient presence, a secret language shared between the Council and its followers. Symbolism flows silently through human history. Subtle but powerful, it links minds, stirs hidden memories, and shapes belief systems. Why do so many celebrities seem tied to these symbols? What if success is the price of submission to unseen forces? Manuscripts from secret societies speak of ancient pacts, where world leaders were chosen to carry the burden of false light. A power that blinds as it seduces. The Council moves in the shadows, but its fingers touch the face of the world. Through parties, cults, and masked rituals, the ancient power smiles, knowing the public will never see the game behind the board. Maybe the real darkness isn't in those who control, but in those who choose to keep their eyes closed. Tag someone who would dare to watch this to the end. In the Council's game, no one is just a victim, and no one is just a pawn. Many wear masks they never chose. Others become willing pieces, servants disguised as enemies of the very power they secretly obey. The line between good and evil dissolves like fog. The so-called initiates of the Council aren't pure monsters, but humans who made pacts, or were forced to carry secrets that slowly erode the soul. Occult texts speak of agreements that transcend lifetimes, and of shattered memories that haunt chosen minds. Who's really in control? What if the greatest prison is a mind convinced it's free? The Council operates in a vicious cycle, where rebels become tyrants, and tyrants are nothing more than pawns in a greater game. In the end, the Council is a mirror, reflecting fear, ambition, and doubt that lives within us all. Maybe the true Council of Darkness lives in every shadow we refuse to face inside ourselves. If this disturbed you, that was the point. Drop your thoughts below. The Council of Darkness isn't distant, nor lost in forgotten myths. It lives in untold stories, in the fears we silence, in the shadows we deny. Lucifer and his fallen companions aren't just relics of the past. They're eternal symbols of the battle between who we are and what we're afraid to become. Rebellion against the divine is, at its core, a revolt against the prison of forgetting. And the Council? It's the reflection of every soul that dared to remember. If that's the truth, why are our eyes still closed? In the darkness, silence screams, and only those who face their own shadows can truly understand the light. Maybe the final darkness is the fear of looking inward, where the counsel lives, invisible, eternal within us. And if all of this is real, write your truth below.